Hi, I'm Lonnie Ward. Over the past 15 years, I've worked in countries battling extreme poverty, meeting incredible people, and learning life-changing lessons. Now, I'm here to share their stories and a few of my own with you. I can't wait to take you along. Water gurgled softly beneath the greenhouse canopy. The air was warm and humid. The smell of earth and water mingled as leafy greens stretched toward the sun, filtering through the roof panels. Tilapia darted through the tanks beside us, and the rhythmic hum of a pump moved water through a precise and efficient cycle. It was beautiful, both in form and in function. This system wasn't just a structure, it was a symbol of ingenuity, of sustainability, and of the self-reliance these women had built over time. But to understand how we got to this moment, standing inside the greenhouse surrounded by vegetables and fish, we have to go back to the beginning. Our work with the community of Peñitas began years earlier in the region of Guanajuato, Mexico. It is a dry, rugged place, often desolate, and many of the families we worked with didn't have access to running water in their homes. That basic resource, something many of us take for granted, is often a daily challenge. People relied on rainwater, but without a way to store it, most of it went to waste. That's when CHOICE Humanitarian entered the picture. We began working in the region by introducing a simple but powerful concept, cajas de ahorros, or savings boxes. In Mexico, that term also refers to banks or lending institutions, but in our case, it means something far more grassroots. A group of women coming together, week by week, saving what they can to lift each other up. Each group started with a lockable toolbox, a notebook, a calculator, a pencil, and the trust of a handful of women. The process was straightforward. Every week, the women gathered, each bringing whatever they could save. They elected leaders, a president to guide the group, assisted by a vice president, a secretary to keep records, and a treasurer to handle the money. Every week, the women met, the box was opened, their deposits were placed into their own individual envelopes inside the box and carefully logged. Each woman contributed something. It didn't matter how much. What mattered was consistency. Over time, those small deposits added up. As the women saved, they also learned. With the help of CHOICE staff, we trained them in everything from health and nutrition to animal care, gardening, and basic construction. We introduced a method called ferro cement, where a skeleton of field fencing and chicken wire is shaped into a form, a stove, a water cistern, a dry toilet, and then covered in a thick mixture of sand and cement. Once it hardened, it created a solid, lasting structure. The women would decide what they wanted to build and take turns helping each other with the project. And build they did. One of the most popular projects was a pizza oven that women could use to bake and sell pizzas, something the whole community loved. Others built dry toilets, giving the families sanitation options where none had existed before. But one of the most impactful structures was the water cistern. Built next to their homes, these 10,000-liter cisterns caught and stored rainwater during the wet season, providing clean water into the dry months. For women who had spent years hauling water, sometimes for miles, this was transformative. Over time, the women of Peñitas constructed dozens of these structures. Walking the dusty paths between homes, you could see the fruits of their labor: domed ovens, sturdy cement cisterns, chicken coops, and small community buildings. The landscape itself was beginning to change. Each project marked a step toward greater independence and long-term sustainability. While some materials were partially subsidized by CHOICE Humanitarian, Rotary clubs, and other partners, the real momentum, the vision and labor, came from the women themselves. The impact of these structures on the community was remarkable, and it reflected the transformation happening within the women as well. They had grown confident, skilled, and deeply motivated. So when our director, Juan Alducin, introduced the concept of an aquaponics system, something far more ambitious, they were not only ready, they were eager for the challenge. Aquaponics was unlike anything they'd done before. It was more complex, more labor-intensive, but it promised bigger rewards. The system, introduced to CHOICE by Lance Bullen, was designed to function as a closed-loop resource-conserving cycle, perfect for a dry environment like theirs. Aerated water was pumped into fish tanks, providing a healthy habitat for fish. The fish produced waste, which naturally enriched the water. That nutrient-rich water flowed into vegetable grow beds filled with lava rock, where plants absorbed the nutrients, effectively filtering the water in the process. The remaining water traveled to a holding pond, home to floating vegetable beds, before finally passing through the 5-gallon buckets filled with more lava rock, which further purified and oxygenated it. Then it trickled back into the fish tanks, starting the cycle all over again. All of this would be housed inside a greenhouse where temperatures could be regulated year-round. It was a brilliant system, a perfect example of using every drop of water to its fullest potential, making it work again and again to support life. The women, with the help of CHOICE staff, expeditioners from the United States, and the Rotary Club, pooled their savings and their labor to bring the idea to life. They built tanks, shaped the grow beds, assembled the greenhouse walls, and filled the system with life. And for a while, everything ran smoothly. The fish grew, the vegetables thrived, the system worked exactly as it was designed to, recycling its own water, conserving every precious drop. Then, the community's water system failed. In a region as dry as Guanajuato, water loss is no small issue. Even in a closed-loop system like this one, some water inevitably evaporates. Without the ability to replenish the supply, the women risked losing everything. The vegetables, the fish, the system they had worked so hard to build, and their entire investment. But instead of panicking or giving up, the women came together to solve the problem themselves. They remembered the resources they already had. Many of them had previously built pizza ovens, and their homemade pizzas had become a hit in their own and neighboring communities. So they fired up their ovens, made batch after batch of pizza, and sold them. Lots of them. With the money they earned, they hired a water truck to come and fill the aquaponics system. Not once, but 3 times during the time their community water supply was down. When Juan and I visited again, the women led us into the greenhouse and told us the story, standing proudly among the lush greenery and bubbling tanks. They didn't wait for help. They didn't ask for permission. They used what they had, skills, savings, creativity, and took care of the problem themselves. In that moment, I saw the real success, not in the structure or the vegetables or even the fish. The success was in the mindset. These women weren't waiting for someone to fix their problems. They were fixing them themselves. They had built more than cisterns or gardens or ovens. They had built capacity. They had built resilience. They had learned to recognize their resources, however small, and multiply their impact. Week by week, envelope by envelope, project by project, they had built up not just structures, but confidence, capacity, and community. Each woman brought her own strengths, her own contributions, and over time, those individual efforts began to enrich the lives of everyone around them. Their learning flowed into action, their action flowed into results, and those results flowed right back into the community, just like the water in their system. Together, they created a self-sustaining, ever-improving cycle of ingenuity, of prosperity, and of resilience. The women of Peñitas didn't just build a system, they became the system, recycling their knowledge into new opportunities, transforming scarcity into abundance, and proving that when we invest in people's ability to solve their own problems, the results ripple outward in powerful, lasting ways. Their story reminds me that true progress doesn't always start with outside aid or big interventions. Sometimes it starts with the small envelope in a locked box. Sometimes it starts with a pizza. And sometimes it grows into something so much bigger, something that gurgles quietly under a greenhouse roof, telling the story of strength, innovation, and a future these women built with their own hands. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who'd love these stories too. To learn more or connect with me, visit lonnieward.com. Until next time, be the change.